Up next is a discussion between some of our reporters and speakers, all about Power Platform. So sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hey everyone, welcome to ESPC 2020, and this is the keynote. Again, I'm kidding, it's not the keynote, but we're on day one, and we've got some amazing folk with us, so I'd like to welcome everyone. And the best way to start this type of panel discussion is with intros. So Heather, I think we're going to start with you. Is that cool?
You betcha. Heather Newman, I'm Principal PM Manager at Microsoft, basically building, leading, helping with our platform, Power Platform community. So Serge, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Flo, so I'm a Business Application MVP. I'm based in Brussels. My role is a Power Platform Solution Architect, so I've been using the platform since the beginning. And basically, I create critical mission application for my customer.
Awesome.
Daniel.
Yes, my name is Daniel Laskewitz, and I am a Power Platform lead, or the Power Platform lead at Society in the Netherlands. And yeah, I'm also a Business Applications MVP, just like Serge.
Right, so we've got Martin next.
Yeah.
My name's Martin. I've spent my life suffering SharePoint, but now I'm experiencing the Power Platform, so that's quite fun. And
more suffering?
Well, you know,
Chris loves it.
Everyone implements it differently. You know, it's not really a product issue. Getting into the Power Platform and really excited about the COE, and my role is essentially I'm a product specialist, and yeah, just hope to deliver great customer experiences. That's my goal.
Cool. Ahmad?
Ahmad?
All right, so my name is the Flow Jedi, and my friends call me Ahmad. I'm just using Serge jokes at the sessions. And my name is Ahmed Najjar. You could call me Ahmad. I won't be offended. I'm based in Oslo, Norway. I'm a senior consultant at Inforker, and I'm also a business applications MVP. I've been basically working with development, very passionate, enthusiastic developer. Been working with SharePoint for over 15 years, and then moved on to the awesome sauce in Power Platform, and mainly work with Power Automate and Power Apps. But I do have knowledge in Azure with Logic Apps as well.
Cool. Exciting. Yeah, this is quite a cost, actually. I feel like an intruder because I'm a CDS person, surrounded by SharePoint people.
Yeah.
So I was actually going to invite like some of my Dynamics friends to the call, but nobody wanted to join because Laskewitz was here.
They were like, no, thank you.
No,
thank you. Those unstructured data guys.
Yo, this is it, man. And actually, this is part of the reason we're here. Is we're here to talk about some of that because I know some of you presented at Ignite. Some of you didn't present, but were part of the audience. Some of you were more vocal on Twitter than anyone I've ever met. But I thought what we would do is there's been some pretty interesting things that have come out. So I'm going to go right ahead, right, and say, as somebody that works for Microsoft and is a ex-Dynamics nerd, now Super Power Platform nerd, my favorite release was probably Project Oakdale, okay? Now, for me, that filled a very specific gap. And Daniel, I'm going to hand over to you just after I've said this, right? But
yeah,
filled a very specific gap for me because there's been one big thing around, like, we call it the Great Data Wars, where everyone was talking about like CDS versus SharePoint versus this. And actually, Oakdale fills a really great gap. And I think it gives people a lot of opportunity. So, Daniel, I know you've been doing loads with lists and you've experienced Project Oakdale. Do you want to share any of your thoughts?
Yeah, what I think is really interesting is that Microsoft is really listening to the community and to the customers, because a lot of customers were asking Microsoft, how can we handle this whole licensing thing, right? And that was a big ask from almost every customer and almost every community member. And now Microsoft just delivered on that, because there's so many people that can now benefit from Power Apps with CDS in Teams. They can also use flows in there with Power Automate, of course. They can also build even chatbots internally and just use that in their teams. And that's something that's really interesting, because I really like the hook with Teams also, because Teams is so much, there's so much happening there. And what I can see is that more and more things are getting into Teams. A lot of people were already building Power Apps and adding them in their teams. And you can see that it's integrating even more right now. And that's a really interesting scenario, of course.
Yeah, and Ahmad, you got something to say about this. I know that you're a big fan.
Absolutely, absolutely. And before I actually jump into the feature that I've actually seen with Project Oakdale, I want to say that actually Microsoft, with doing Project Oakdale, they have bridged the unbridgeable. They have actually made all those end users to become developers. And when you put everything in one integrated environment, so you actually have, like for us as developers, I've been using Visual Studio, and this what we call a integrated development environment. So they did exactly that for end users, and they put that into Teams, which is basically is your day. Your day is spent in Teams. So you're actually doing chats, meetings, everything. We're using Teams right now. So you put that as well, the capability, so you don't have to leave your common environment, which you're working with all day, and you put those capabilities in Teams. Is just amazing. So, and to add on that, so you have the built-in low-code data platform. You have some the data formatting for your data for CDS. So when I first used CDS, you look at the data, it's just, pale data, columns and data, but now you have conditional formatting for CDS inside of Teams. And that's also something you find in SharePoint, but also they bridged that, they brought it as well into Teams, which is something I think amazing. They will bring more end users to that, let's say the Power Platform generally and to Power Apps specifically.
That's a strong point, man. And actually, I want to just switch out to Martin here, because I know Martin's been doing a lot of deliveries around the SharePoint side of things. And Martin, do you have any sort of opinion on where this could go? I mean, I know you guys are doing quite a bit of stuff with COE, actually.
I think it's a game changer because, Project Oakdale, if you think about trying to democratize building of apps, it almost seemed impossible, right? You had companies sort of navigating into these freemium experiences with SharePoint lists and trying to sort of continue that sort of habit of using lists to the extent that they can't be used, and just trying to essentially break it to get it to what they want to do. And with this, it's now going to give people that ability to just deliver and make it beyond exciting. I'm looking forward to having some of that like data management piece, the governance piece in the data side, something that you can't do sort of really easily in an unstructured environment is obfuscating data, and that compliance piece is really important.
Yeah, and I know I can see Serge has got his hand up. I always know when Serge is going to say something, it's going to be good. So what's your opinion? Tell us.
We have spent the last 10 years creating SharePoint application. Actually, most of us here. Yeah. It was very successful. So there are many business cases for doing that, because that's where customers live. So I think the next 10 years, I might be wrong, but the next 10 years will be spent into creating applications that integrate in Teams. I'm specifically interested into the CDS part of the Oakdale story, of course, because indeed, as Martin mentioned, there are many limitations in SharePoint list. So we need something more robust, something more relational, easier to we should talk a lot about the CDS aspect of Oakdale, because that's a game changer, I think. For me, that's very important. Yeah.
And before we get to Dan, Serge, that's great points. Before we get to Daniel Head, I was going to ask you, like you've been in the community for a long time, like this better than anyone, right? And how much noise did you see being made about this?
A lot.
About Oakdale.
Yeah.
Let's make not mentioning the other thing. We're not mentioning the other thing. No. Okay.
A lot of noise for sure. I think it's, anytime when we have I'm going to call it a crossover, when we have our technologies helping each other, this is a big one, right? This is a big, hey, we're going to party together and we're going to build things together. And I think, all of us in the middle of a pandemic as well, we're watching, Charles Lamanna is going to be our keynote, who's our CVP for Power Platform. And if he's probably already keynoted already, but him talking about the low code revolution is all of that, and what is this the app gap, right? The app gap challenge. So I think the cool thing about the digital transformation that's happening right now is, one, it's happening at such a rapid rate. When I would being at European SharePoint conference, talking a lot about, we talked about the end users, right? You all brought that up, that now we're giving end users tools, and we're saying, not just to the large enterprises, but we're saying to small and medium-sized businesses who typically don't have a developer. We're saying, hey, in the environment that you're comfortable in, you can build an app, you can build a flow, you can build a bot. Right, that's super exciting, and I think that we're going to see not only our large enterprises who are used to custom development, and we're going to see just that transformation happen even greater on a level where it's going to be marketing folks, my people, it's going to be the HR folks who are going to be like, oh man, let's get an app for that, and I think you'll also see people think about and like go into like our galleries and our communities, like. John Levesque calls them cookbooks in Flow and Power Automate for Flow. But well, like anyway, but we're sharing with each other too, right? So like you can go and say, I wonder if there's something for manufacturing on XYZ. You can go find that information in our community, which is really exciting, and I think we're going to see more of that as people are building with Project Oakdale and teams and all of that. So I think we're just gonna see an explosion of those sorts of things. And yeah, and I think people are really excited, and they're excited to share with each other. And one app potentially, it's like it takes just a tweak for it to be for one thing and you use it for something else, right? There's so many people that have done like PPE apps, right? So like looking at the equipment and inside their businesses, and they've used it then to scale out to something else that they want to track, right? So I feel like digital literacy for the end user is so important, and I think this is just like, here, let's do this cool stuff together. And I think the Power Automate desktop, which is taking RPA to another level, that's exciting as well. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is all coming at the same time.
that is bonkers. Actually, you got such a point. Like this digital literacy thing is very key.
Yeah.
The RPA stuff scares me, actually, because there's this whole concept of like we're replacing people's jobs, and actually we're not doing that. What we're doing is augmenting what people, you shouldn't be sitting whacking data into a machine the whole day, right? You should be thinking and using your brain. Daniel, I know you've had your hand up for a while, man. So we're probably going to move slightly off Oakdale. So like last couple of things, and let's move on to the other bits. But I know you're definitely going to say something about this, so let's hear it.
Yeah. So about Oakdale, for the last part, of course, we are talking about end users, but there's also something for pro developers, of course.
Yes.
We haven't touched upon that, but that's something that's really interesting. The API management stuff that got released. That's something that is going to be crazy for the Power Platform, because we've seen people build custom connectors and so on, but now it's available for free actually in Oakdale. And you can create your API management stuff in Azure. You can add all your APIs there, and then you can just use them within Project Oakdale. And that's something that's really, really powerful. So it's not just the end users, it's also the pro developers that can tie into Oakdale, of course. And then the end users can just use those APIs and create all those apps that they want to create. And that's also something really, really important, of course. So I just wanted to...
Right. I mean, it's the whole life cycle, right?
Yeah.
And anybody who's a maker, like, can be a maker, or like, somebody was saying that development is becoming a team sport. Or group sport.
Exactly.
Cool. Like, you could actually have a conversation instead of it being like, I'm the only person that knows this, and it's like, that's cool. But like, as we say, hashtag sharing is caring. Like, that's all over the community too, right? Serge has his hand up too.
Yeah, he does.
Are you just giving a high five?
Maybe he's just
whenever I do that on accident, I leave it. I'm like, high five. Oh, good.
Regarding the ALM, because that's discussion about the application lifecycle management.
Yes.
I still need to investigate the new feature, which is the GitHub integration. The new action for integrating the whole process in GitHub.
Yeah.
I find that very exciting because the ALM story in the Power Platform is a little bit too complicated for power users. It's nice for developers. You have to create your own Azure pipeline, but there's still some improvement to be done there. So that's why the GitHub things might be very interesting for perhaps citizen developer.
So are you looking forward?
Development where they just click on a button and the whole thing is deployed to another place. You don't have to do anything. I'm sure we get it from the team.
Who am I?
Sure we get it.
I just feel like that. I just feel like that is something that would be amazing, especially for people like me who just want to pick stuff up and move them. But
And publish. Poof.
I'm not going to say anything right now as like from an ALM perspective, but what I am going to tell you is that it's going to get interesting. Okay, and that's what I think. I think that we're going to be moving into a good place, right? I want to, you know, Flow Jedi. Can I say it in movie voice? Flow Jedi.
Yeah.
Wait. See, I have my Darth Vader cup right here.
I think Chris, you have to do your YouTube intro, Ahmed.
All right, dude, tell me something, man. I know you're waving. For you, when you put your hand up, I never picture you actually just doing this. I feel like you're doing this.
Yeah. So what I wanted to say about Project Oakdale is also the seamless integration with Teams. So the things that you actually can do, like in the inline code, when you build those Power Apps inside of Teams. So you have seamless integration. You don't have to use actually the connectors because it's already embedded for you there. Themes, the colorings, like you could use standard colorings, for example, for the buttons. So you have totally seamless integration. And to add more fun stuff into that, so you have out-of-the-box templates, which you could just benefit from. Yeah. So you could start off from templates that you already have within Teams in Project Oakdale and build on top of those. And this is actually could leverage how we will look at the day-to-day work. So you could just start from something very simple and then build on top of that, and you have something that's very sophisticated at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with you. You know, so I had my first touch point with Oakdale, and one of the things I found, I'm going to be quite honest, was the ALM piece I'm struggling with, right? And it's something I'm learning, okay? But you're right. I think that in building these crazy solutions, and Martin, I'm going to ask you something around this real quick, around some of the things you've seen from a delivery perspective. But when building out these solutions, you know, the first thing I built, so Ryan announced the release of Oakdale, and I'm like, I've got to try this. So the first thing I did was like get on, start building stuff. And now I'm building bots and all sorts of cool things on the fly, which I never would before. And there's a couple of things I want to ask. So Martin, you come from Martin's actually ex-Microsoft. He comes from quite a long background of delivery. Martin, from an Oakdale perspective, do you perceive this as creating do you think it's going to create anarchy, or do you think it's going to provide opportunity? Like, what's your opinion?
I think it's opportunity. I think if you in place, this kind of circles back to the COE. If you're building apps and you've got sort of a proper process in place, as you guys know, if there's no existing process. I mean, this reminds me of the old. Do you remember patterns and practices, right? So patterns and practices was awesome, and it was like documented, and you had examples, and you could take your examples and you could implement them. But that was more like patterns, right? With Power Platform COE, it's actually practice, and you don't have to sit and come up with patterns in there. I think delivery is going to be exceptional for these users who are going to be using it, because if you have those pieces in place, Chris, I think you'll be able to democratize that really quickly. And bear in mind that your innovation generally comes from your boots on the ground. It doesn't come from senior execs. You want your users to be building apps. You want them to be sort of feel the freedom to go and just deliver stuff.
Right.
Yeah. You know, Alan Shire, I think it was Alan Shire, said something really interesting that Ryan Cunningham repeated to me once. And he said, better a governed free market you know than a black market you don't know.
Exactly.
So you have the ability to build, but obviously within the right digital guide rails. And I think that's pretty key. But also there's a lot of things that come with that around, you know, the way we decide to move the stuff and the way we decide to build it. So, Serge, I know you're going to have an opinion on this, buddy. What do you say?
What I wanted to say is that all this stuff will reduce the risk of shadow IT.
Yes.
Because now it's going to be in control, and so it's less risky, which is very important for big companies. So, and I think that's a very important point. It's under control now. I mean, you can do whatever you want. We can still know what you do, etc. But there are still some challenges with this, which is that people can create anything. And there are other security risks on data as well, because there are some basic rules in software development, some assessment that need to be done, right? So there are some risks as well. So I think we need to provide people some training about some good practices when it comes to security, because otherwise other risks will come up as well.
I'm wondering, do you all feel, as far as what we're putting out, I'm asking from a Microsoft perspective. So we're just talking about the Center of Excellence, right? So like all of that documentation is up on docs.microsoft.com, right? But it's new, like that's, you know, but it's this year new, right? For Power Platform, the COE. And I'm on the Power Cat team. Hey, Power Cats, that out. My team is awesome. Shout out anyway. But Manuela and Kathy, and you know, so many of them are putting out such great stuff. And we just put out Power Platform adoption best practices. I guess my call to the community always is, and now in me in this role, I'm like, what are we missing? You know, what do we need? Right? What like we have the app in a day, we've got that kind of training. I think there's, you know, RPA in a day, some of those things coming out for folks.
Our automation a day.
What is it?
Our automating a day.
Yeah, that's also there. who wrote
full
that?
day?
I don't know.
Who wrote that? Yeah, really.
You know what I mean? Like, but seriously, like that kind of stuff is things that I want to know, you know, from all of us. So I guess, do you feel like more, obviously we always want more training, but just I'm selfishly going to ask the question, what else do we need that we're missing? That's typical for Microsoft, right?
In fact, Heather, that's an awesome question, because I get that every day from partners. And Martin, I know the partner that you work for, right? So I mean, you've done a number of the hacks, and you've also done a number of the in-a-day sessions. But even from a customer perspective, like, do you perceive what we've got out there as something that could be useful for partner and customer?
So I actually forgot to mention it prior, but what I wanted to say was there's been a reluctance to implement some of the things in the Power Platform because of the existing ALM process that was in place before. But now that the COE is in place and we have all the right governance in place, Serge mentioned data and making sure that security is in place. Chris showed us a whole bunch of stuff in terms of data policy governance on the Power Platform, and that stuff is incredible. If you're a business, you want to have confidence on the platform. You don't want to be, oh, well, everyone can go build stuff, and you sit there going, so much risk, you know. The risk team will be having a heart attack every night. But I think what you guys are doing at the moment is exceptional, and it builds a lot of confidence, not only in the partner community, but I think with customers as well.
Cool. Well, that's good to hear. Well, keep on us. You're like, I need X next.
We'll do it.
You know my Twitter handle, you know, tell me what's up. So yeah,
it's true. It's true. Actually, I think that type of thing, part of that whole process is around learning, right? So, I mean, you know, whoever put that Power Automate in a Day course together, you know, it's not a hard.
Yeah, there you go, Serge.
Yeah, can I tell you, I was super. I mean, when I was with the Flow Ninja in the Flow Jedi. Whoa, the Flow Jedi.
There is a Flow Ninja, by the way.
It was taken.
I was with the Flow Jedi in Norway some time back. I was very adverse to Flow or Power Automate Flows. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. You know, Dynamics 365 has got workflows, and now, man, I don't remember the last time I opened one of those things. Like, I just, you know, it becomes, and I think these tools become part of your daily existence. You know, as super users and as people that just like to open up tools like Excel, it becomes part of your daily life. And I think that's what's going to happen with apps. So I think Flow Jedi, what's your opinion on all of this, man?
So I actually come from a development background, and as something I actually wanted to elaborate. I would have raised my hand if you're talking about this myself, and I would elaborate about that. Yeah. I sometimes wanted to do, like, you know, small stuff. And ever since that I worked with .NET, I would have built, like, you know, a small .NET application, console application, or whether it's a desktop application to do stuff. But right now I don't have to do that. I just go to Flow, And if I want to move data from one source to another, or even to do a check on data from one place to another, I just use Power Automate. I don't have to do those, small bits and pieces with .NET. I just, dive into it, build those blocks, because those connectors, it, uses APIs, and I could connect whatever is something on-prem or whether something in the cloud. So I just do all those connectors, just manage them the way I want, and there you go. I have it like on a gold plate. So I don't have to do that. And I just want to touch on what Heather was talking about. Like, you guys are actually setting a benchmark for the rest of the products and services from Microsoft. So first of all is community. And this is like, that what actually lifted the SharePoint is community. And we're doing exactly the same experience in Power Platform. We're doing it even like, I don't want to say better. I don't want to say better, but we're doing it in a way that we're actually including everybody. And it's actually on the right track. Probably it took some time with SharePoint community, but right now we did it from the start for the Power Platform, and we're actually on the right track. So keep doing that. And those people that are coming from the community are sharing their stories, how they started, the resilience of this services and tools in the Power Platform, how easy you could use them, how easy you could just integrate them with the rest of the stuff. And they're actually from all walks of life. People that are used to be working as bus drivers, people that are used to be working at airports, and even developers. So everybody from different walks of lives, they're actually engaging with this Power Platform. So keep doing that. In documentation, having materials online that actually as well helps the community to find whatever they're looking for. So keep doing that. You're on the right track.
Sweet.
Hands are up. I have all things to say, but hands are up.
Yeah.
I know when Daskevitz wants to talk, he's just like,
Yeah. No, but we already talked a little bit about it, and I really love the patterns and practices stuff, and I think a bit or two about that, but patterns and practices was really focused on IT pros and developers and those type of people. And what Ahmad just said is something that's completely different, and that's why I'm not really sure if the whole patterns and practices stuff will work on them, but there's a completely different type of person also in there. So the people who work at airports, the bus drivers, those kind of people, and I'm not sure if they would like the patterns and practices approach.
You got your app in one hand and you're driving the bus around.
Imagine
I think, but like words like center of excellence, besides patterns and practices, sometimes literally it's marketing, it's words, right? So people can get behind, like, let's have a center of excellence about X at our company, right? And then the patterns and practices, it is a little techie kind of maybe, but like I think it's semantics, but also you have both, and I think Vesa does such a great job with all of that stuff, right? And so I feel like, and we're all chatting, by the way. So like that's one of those cool things. I mean, my background being, an MVP from Office and then taking this job, like I'm like all my Teams people, I'm all like, what's up? So there's there's community goes, and so there's a lot of so many like, okay, who started in SharePoint? Put your hand up. Come on.
Dynamics.
All right, Dynamics as well, but you all are MVPs in more than one, some of you, and all of that. So it's like there's so much, and what you were saying, Ahmad, about the SharePoint community. Yeah, I mean, it'll be 20 years next year for SharePoint. Holy cats, right? Yeah. And so we built that community over a very long time. And I think there was a surge, all puns intended, at some point with the community where it really went, right? And it was super organic and it was amazing that way. And I feel like the Power Platform is benefiting from the SharePoint community's just tightness and how people work together. And so I feel like it is very welcoming. And it's also, and it's not just about super techie tech stuff, I mean, it's like, I'm technical, but I'm not as deep as you guys, I'm not. But there's room for everybody for what you bring to the table. And that's what's super cool about, I think, community at Microsoft in general, and what we're doing with Power Platform and sort of the upskilling, low code, no code, you can do this too. You can Excel, you can know PowerPoint, you can be a graphic designer. Like, you want to make your apps look awesome. Does everybody know how to bust out some Adobe and make a great graphic? No.
Exactly.
right? Like I'm like I lean on that kind of stuff all the time with my team. So it's good to hear. But
Mhm.
you know, we can always do better, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
I know Serge has had his hand up for a while. Definitely.
Yeah, what's up, Serge?
Yeah, Heather, to answer your question, what can we do next regarding documentation? Perhaps can we record the labs, the in a day labs? Just
That's
having the
literally what
videos
I'm
would be
talking
very
about,
nice.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
That's
Yep. Okay. Got it.
Honestly, man, that like literally that is something that I'm busy working on right now.
Yeah. It's in progress. So perfect.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
the labs are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a random thing, right? We're going to do something random because now we've been going for exactly 31 minutes. We're going to do something totally random. In order, I'm going to call out your name. You have to yell out your favorite dessert. Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Serge, what's your favorite dessert?
chocolate mousse.
Yes, Martin.
Brownie.
Yeah, Daniel.
Tiramisu.
Oh, okay, Ahmad.
Cheesecake.
Heather.
Milk chocolate covered strawberries.
Wow.
Whoa.
Tough one.
And Chris?
We have a South African thing called a peppermint crisp tart.
Oof.
It's awesome.
Okay.
It's awesome.
Amazing.
Right, so now that you all know what everyone's favorite dessert is, you know, we can send physical addresses. Just saying. Okay.
Yeah.
My location is.
Although it's not really for me.
Yeah. Don't post moose or cake. It's weird. Right. So I think before we get onto the futuristy type stuff, okay, because that's going to be like our wants and everyone's needs, and we know ALM's up there. We got some questions around. I think the COE sort of goes, you know, the Oakdale stuff and the COE stuff and the community pieces moving nicely into what we're talking around like the data stuff and what should be used where and how. And I know Serge has got his hand up. I'm gonna get to you next soon. But here's the thing. You guys were talking about like the SharePoint community and how, you know, awesomely friendly everyone is, and they are. But I kind of feel like there's been an ecumenization, if that's not a word, I've made it up and it now is, of communities. So like with Power Platform, we've roped in a load of folks from SharePoint, a load of folks from BizApps, a load of folks from Azure. And there's this, you know, beautiful thing that's happened where all these people are chatting to one another. And in that happening, there's been discussions around like what's best practice, where should things be put, why should certain things be used, which is cool because everyone's got an opinion, everyone's got an idea of how this stuff should fit together. I mean, you know, Daniel and I constantly poke fun at each other about SharePoint and CDS. It's basically a thing, and I've been chatting to Paul Comsky about it quite a lot recently, but it's been good because I've had an education, right? So I can officially say I'm data source agnostic as far as like what should be used. Yes, I'm still a big fan of CDS, but I've also learned that tools like Microsoft Lists are really key. Tools like Oakdale are really key. Using SQL in the right experiences and times are really, really important. So I'd like to get some people's opinions on this, right? Because no one's right or wrong, I think. I think in certain scenarios and use cases, there are the right tools for the job. Mm-hmm. But Serge, can we start with you, man? Because I know you've had your hand up, so you're probably going to start off with something and then maybe move into this. But what's your opinion?
Well, my opinion is, as I mentioned before, it depends on the kind of application you want to create. If you want to create mission critical business application, which is especially the type of application that I do for my customer,
yeah,
it's maybe a small part of what we can do with the Power Platform, but it's still very important. Then we need to think about the patterns, the industrial patterns. We always should keep that in mind. That's super important. So having different layers, defining security layers, defining permission matrix, all these things are still super important, right? And focusing on use cases, on user requirements, that's the most important part. And now creating the technical things is now very easy. That's not a big issue. As long as you have Power Automate, you have the glue between any component, any platform. So you can use that as a glue for everything. So that makes our technical life easier. Complicated aspect is still business requirement, architecture, security. All these things are very important. And I believe that we can teach that to citizen developer or some part of it. That's my opinion. I mean, so
It's a good formulation of thoughts there. Yeah, definitely something to think about. I might wheel back on that one. So Martin, I know you've got an opinion on this.
Yes, I mean, I just actually wanted to just, on the back of what Serge was saying, is that I think people are going to find that they start putting apps into certain data platforms, and then it's going to evolve. I mean, if you look back and you think about, it's like a silly example, but if you think about Microsoft Excel and how that evolved applications out of businesses. So people started using Excel, and then people started linking sheets together. And then they started building Visual Basic apps inside of Excel. And then MS OLAP came out. And then people started doing cubes in Excel. And then they were like, oh my gosh, let's put this in SQL. So now, I mean, there's stuff on in the Azure data platform that these users that are now sort of plugging into Project Oakdale, then they're going to evolve into CDS, then they're going to start evolving into slightly more AI-driven stuff. And before you know it, you're going to have data experts in every walk of life. And that's essentially where things are going to go, I think.
Oh man, I couldn't agree more. Daniel. So we're going to go Daniel, then Ahmad, and then probably Heather. So we're doing
All right.
Whack-a-mole.
Zigzag.
Whack-a-mole.
No whammies.
So one of the things that I didn't hear yet, but what I think is really important is also the ability within a company. So of course we can teach people how to use CDS, how to build solutions on CDS, but when I'm at a company and there's already 10 guys that are really, really good at SQL or something like that, I might build an app on SQL then in that point of time. But I'll also take them along to, have you seen CDS? And I'll try to teach them how CDS works, what they can do with it. And I think that we are in a transition there. So we're going to move to a different kind of world. So people are going to know more about CDS. Cosmos DB is also a thing that a lot of people don't know yet. So that's also a thing that probably is going to change the world.
Right.
I genuinely couldn't agree with you more. I'm physically watching with people go through this sort of transformation journey that's been happening over the last, I want to call it a year. I mean, I know it's a lot longer than yet, but I think it's been insane to watch how people have started using different parts of the, I mean, you know, if you said to me, Chris, go and build an app on SharePoint a year and a half ago, I mean, you guys know my response. I would have been like, that's the idea. And I'm like, you know what, actually, like I get the use case, I get why it needs to be done, right? But you know, that's the thing. We're all starting to open up to learning and understanding more about the different tools that are out there. So, Ahmad, I'm hoping you're going to fill me in a bit more on this stuff.
Well, the first point is actually two main points I want to touch on. The first one is actually just happened right here in the conversation. So, like Sir said something, and then Martin elaborated, and now I'm actually going to elaborate on what Martin have said. So what I want to say is actually this accumulative knowledge that we build over time, that we build step by step, and then this will mark sort of like, you know, it's sort of like a stairs, and then we're going step by step. So we build over time things that we never thought that we'd be able to do, and it's just open, sort of like, you know, eye openers. And that's actually the first thing. So we build on stuff that we actually, people started building on. And the second thing that will actually affect how things goes, or probably would funnel people, is trends and events. Like, who would have thought that people would be able to work from home all these days, or even organize a lot of big events from home using Teams, at least I could say the least. So this trend changed the people, how they think, and it funneled people into using Teams. And it actually came just on time. I don't know if Microsoft was planning doing Project Oakdale from a long time, like, you know, during this year, but it's actually worked into their favor because now everybody is using Teams, and you have Project Oakdale. Everybody's now is working with Teams. A lot of people funneled into that, you know, corridor and then went into working with Teams. And this actually affected how we look at technology. We want to have our technology in a place that we're familiar with, working with every day, and not only for developers, I'm just talking for everybody from different walks of life. So these two things that I think that would affect how things would go. In terms of data, we built on accumulative knowledge. So whether that this is going to be like, for example, if you're using tools that will have an eye opener for you, so you'd know there's something that's called Cosmos DB, SQL, Excel, the different connectors. So it makes it easy for you to understand that there's other tools than Excel. And the other thing is actually trends. So how it actually happens, like, for example, we had the COVID-19, everybody funneled into Teams and everybody now is working remotely. So it changed everybody how they think and it changed the trend. So that's my point of view.
That is a absolutely boss point to make. I think, yeah, you know, the Oakdale thing, it is really interesting how that discussion actually came around. And I know a little bit, and I can't really mention too much. Say is that there's always been the concept of a need for this ability to store data in better ways all the time. It's been happening for years and years. I remember, you know, I'll tell you guys something interesting. So in 2011, we used to argue with SharePoint people about should it be stored in a Dynamics entity or should it be stored in a list. Guess what? Nothing's changed, right? But now,
Well, there is something that's changed.
what's that?
It's not called an entity anymore, right? It's just a table.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's a table.
Yeah, spot on. I think what I want to start doing is sort of transversal. Can I use a cool word? It's a Kelvin and Hobbesism. It's called transmogrification. It means to change magically. So I want to transmogrify this discussion a little bit, like from what we're going on about now into sort of what people are expecting to see in the future and some things that you're hoping for. And Heather, being one of the fearless leaders in Microsoft, I think is probably the best way to start with you around, like, you know, you've been in the community a long time. What are your opinions? Where do you think this is all going?
Well, I mean, I think it's just more and more connectedness. You know, we get from Satya on down, we have the one Microsoft discussion, right? And so I feel like that is something that we're working on. Power Platform, those two words together hasn't been for a long time. You remember when it came out? Like, you know, and Power Platform is not a product. It is a set of products. It is a set of products, a solution, and it's also, you know, with Dynamics as well. So. And we're reaching over with Project Oakdale. So I feel like that there is a push for better connection on all levels, you know, from community, you know, where I live and breathe, where I'm reaching over, and we're the modern workplace, right? So how does modern workplace and Power Platform and Dynamics work better together? And you're seeing that in the product as well, right? We kind of have to have it on all levels. It has to be from the product, from the community, licensing, you know, all of it.
I'm gonna shoot you.
Licensing.
But, truly, you know what I mean? And so I feel like, though, that is, people are mindful of that. You know, the folks that build the products are mindful of that. On a business level, we're mindful of that because, you know, if you've got impediments in the way for that it's like, here, do all this stuff together. And you're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. You know, like that, you know, it makes people angry. Right. And what we don't want is angry people. We want people to be like, oh, this is actually easy. OK, I can put this and that and together. And I think that's the exciting thing about the Power Platform, too, is the flow, all puns intended, of thinking about, you know, data, common data service. Like those words together are little, people are like, ooh, what's that? The common data service. You know, it's just data. It happens to be somewhere. Right. And you can use it in different ways. And then there's connectors. Right. So I feel like the cool thing about talking about you want to analyze your data with Power BI, you want to take it and build it into an app, and then you're going to flow it, and then you're going to build bots like that. I mean, when you say that, you're like, does that make sense? And you're like, yeah, it does, actually. Yep. So I feel like just better connectedness, more connectedness on all the different levels is something I know Charles is really thinking about. Jeff Teeper's thinking about it. So is James Phillips. So like we've got everybody who's working to do that on bigger levels. So I think we're going to just see more and more connectivity between things and with a purpose because it is about like everyone being able to play as well, I think, you know, and Ahmad, you're right about the, you know, with COVID and with what we've gone through, like with everybody having teams, that's the other thing. If we back up before Teams, you know, BT, you know, we all lived and played in SharePoint, right? And SharePoint is beautiful and easy in a way, but you bring that into a company and not everybody's like, what? I have to go to this thing, this intranet, this portal thing, and Teams was sort of the grand ubiquitous, like everybody can play, because
Right.
it's like chat. It's like this. It's like that. It's like, oh, I'm just like this and like that and like this and I. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, but it helps. But it helped bring everybody together, right? It gave us that layer of togetherness, I think, that we may or may not have had before, because some people were still very intimidated by SharePoint, right?
Right.
So I think if you go back and go Teams, and then we go, gosh, work from home, all this remote work. So we've seen this like, and so I think we're just going to build on that. Like, why wouldn't you, right? When
Right.
we're all still very away from each other and feeling disconnected and all of that, how do we connect more through all of these things? And that's by bringing things together more and making it easier to deal with our daily lives, right?
Right on.
Yeah, that's what I'm working on anyway. I know our team
Makes
is
sense.
too. I know we all are.
We're with you. We're with you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like creating more digital cement for those digital bricks, really.
yeah.
That's what's pretty awesome. All right, so we're gonna start wrapping up and like sort of. So Serge, I'm gonna hand over to you. Just what do you reckon's coming, man? What are you excited about?
Well, what I'm excited is that I see that the tool are more and more easy to use, so we can easily fix technical problems, can focus more on more complicated things.
Mm.
That's very important. Okay, so less time spent into technical details and more time spent with customer, with people, understanding the business requirements, the design, all the things that really matter. So that's where the added value is. I mean, so that's the trend, I think.
I think you're right.
Now, to be a bit more specific, I think and I hope that licensing will be easier to understand for customer. I'm sure it will.
Maybe
Yeah,
Chris can explain.
That's the elephant in the room. I think it's going to be easier.
Classification.
I will tell you something real quick. There's a rule around about licensing, and it goes.
However, it's getting easier because we see that almost everything is free when you use Teams. So
Yeah.
in a way, it's getting easier. So it's easier for everyone. So, and I think we need some changes in the ALM story as well. We also need some features. I don't want to get into the details for real business process management things that matter as well. So we need some improvement, and voila. So life is beautiful. So we had a good life with SharePoint, by the way. Now it's even better with the Power Platform. So I mean,
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
It's a good time to write code anyway, to be technical.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think just on the licensing, the official rule on licensing is guide before guidance, right?
Yeah.
Read the manual. I promise you, it's worth it. Right. So, Martin, what do you reckon? What's coming?
I'm just excited about what's going to be produced. I mean, we have, like Heather was saying earlier, that it doesn't make sense to build a bot. And yes, it totally does. If you look at the current generation of kids, they're totally comfortable with the phones, with talking to bots on websites. Whenever they have a problem on their little order, they quickly chat to a bot. So for them, it makes perfect sense to be building bots, building automation. And that to me is like really key. I think if we have companies who are encouraged to use the COE and have all these controls and policies and that in place, you kind of, that democratization of app building, it's there. And that makes Power Platform into like an empowerment platform. And then things will just grow exponentially.
I was like, my marketing hat just went, whoop.
Did you write it down, Heather?
This is all right. So, Daniel, I know you always got good stuff around this. What do you think?
Yeah, so what we have seen over the last couple of years is that we saw those products grow together, right? So at first they were just separate products. You had Power BI, you had Power Apps, you had Power Automate, and it didn't really connect with each other. It got more connected over the years. And what I see now is also new products. For instance, Power Virtual Agents. You can connect really easily to Power Automate. You can also embed them soon in Power Apps, for instance. There's all kinds of ways to integrate those kinds of things. And what I really looking forward to is the Power Automate Desktop, the RPA solution. And I'm really interested in what's going to happen there, because if we are going to have a citizen developer RPA kind of wave coming, I'm really curious to see what's going to happen there.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be really interesting. But
Or play on the phone.
Alarm bells.
Just do everything. Just do everything. Just
Exactly.
All right, man. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
So, sorry. The Flow Jedi.
All right, there you go. Okay, so the last thing that actually I want to touch on is we look at Microsoft. We should look at Microsoft as technology vendor, not like a software house. Like everybody, when they work with that Microsoft provides, Microsoft just thinks as a strategy. They want to hear from the customers and then build on top of these things that they hear from customers and build strategy, because they drive technology. They does not actually build things for you as ready to go. Like they don't do a donut for you, but they give you an easy way to get, like, for example, flour, sugar, and all that stuff. And then you build them and you do the donut that you like. And that's the whole idea. It's sort of like, a strategy. So when you think about it, Microsoft is a technology vendor, not a software house. But the thing is that when you put that into action, you put it in the market, you have different people from different walks of life. So you have, if we want to talk about two aisles, you have people that are actually technical people, developers, IT pros, and you have the personas, which is they work with the day-to-day work. And I think that what at least the Power Platform people need to do is have the right balance, the right formula in order to give the developers the space to do the things that they will able to do, and as well as focus and at the end user, which is they be able to build their own apps. So the thing is that we felt at the beginning that the focus is on the end users and not the developers. And they want to make things easy for end users and, let's say, citizen developers as they are called, but not the developers, because developers, they think in a different way. And I think that we don't need to neglect either, but we need to have the right balance. And I think that at least things are working on the right track, but I still think that the citizen developers are the main focus in the process and moving towards the future. But I think that things are getting better, because I remember that the first MVP Summit, I felt kind of like, the focus business developers or citizen developers were not going to be focusing on development, and then things suddenly changed, in a heartbeat. And things have started moving a little bit towards, developers and doing those stuff. And something that I want to touch on, I mentioned, I'm not going to mention any NDA information, but we were having the MVP session, the last one we had, you remember that Laskowitz, and we were talking about the Power Automate desktop. And the whole idea is actually to change all those applications that you have in your mainframes and able to have sort of like an API for those applications that does not provide API. So you'd be able to integrate with, right? So this is the main idea. But we didn't look actually at the flip side of the coin, because people could do, automations on desktop using this, though this probably tool does have an API, but they will make it easier. And people would do desktop automations instead of doing just the things on the applications that run on mainframes. So there's always a flip side of the coin. So I think this putting those strategies and how to drive technologies is difficult, but at least for my part, I think Microsoft is doing the right thing to listening to the community and hearing about the business, cases and stories from different clients, and that should at least driving into the right, strategy or making the right decisions.
No, I think you're right, and actually that's the thing. There's something in here for everyone, but we, as the vendor, as Microsoft, we are really trying to work with absolutely everyone we can to make this platform more awesome. And honestly, all of you on the call and on behalf of Heather and I, just thank you so much for the feedback that you give us all the time, because it's amazing. So we've got to wrap up. I just want to once again, thank our hosts, ESPC, for allowing us to have this discussion. Honestly, a lot of the time, you will find this in the community wherever you go, okay? And that's the thing, we're all friends. Yes, we argue, but it's really important that we have an opinion and that we share it with one another so that the best and the goals can be achieved. So everyone on the call, thank you very much. Honestly, it's been amazing. I hope you have, everyone that's been watching, have the best conference ever. So, folks, let's wave everyone out and give them a high five, a virtual hug. I don't know, whatever we do. Maybe have a shot of tequila. It's COVID. Do whatever you want. But yeah, thank you guys for
It's 7 a.m. in the morning here. Come on.
That's perfect. Cheers, everyone.
Bye.